On News Hour tonight, Niger IDPs turn to sandpacking for survival amid disease outbreaks. Kaduna Court remands 10 in prison for assaulting 16-year-old girl. APGA adopts Tinubu for 2027 presidential election. And on the foreign scene, American Robert Francis emerges as new Pope. Hello and welcome to Trust TV's News Hour. I am Hawa Adamakiawa. 1 year after fleeing their homes due to the withdrawal of security forces, residents of Alawa and neighboring communities in Shiroro local government area of Niger State, especially women and children, are now relying on sand mining and other menial jobs to survive. Alongside the struggle for livelihood, displaced families are facing outbreaks of disease and a growing number of deaths. Trust TV's Abubakar Akwati reports.
For the past year, Central Primary School in Erina has been home to dozens of internally displaced persons from Alawa and surrounding villages. According to the Niger State Commissioner for Homeland Security, Brigadier General Bello Abdullahi retired, the military's withdrawal was meant to be a temporary move to allow for a new security strategy. Yet, a full year later, the soldiers have not returned. Displaced residents told Trust TV they are battling not only poor living conditions, but also health crises. Many have turned to begging or sandpacking, which entails loading and selling sand by the roadside to feed their families.
Life is not easy. Life has been so hard to us because in terms of health-wise, feedings, accommodations, we have been facing a lot of problems. We have lost a lot of lives based on sickness, different type of sickness, diseases, because of the accumulation of the people in one class. Because we are over 50 in one class. Little children, babies, feedings on breast, sleeping in the same place. That's why when sickness comes or any type of disease comes, it will just attack us. If you can go to our building ground here now, it's full of a lot of people.
We have received no humanitarian aid from any organization. Now we pack sand and sell it to truck drivers. Filling one truck earns us only 3,000 naira. It's exhausting, but we do it for the sake of our children. The government used to give us relief materials, but that stopped long ago. My husband has passed away, and now I beg just to feed myself. I'm too weak to pack sand. Since arriving at this camp, I developed rheumatism. I rely on herbal remedies because I can't afford proper medications. We are begging the government to restore security in our community. We've suffered enough. All we want is to return home.
Despite promises from the Niger State government to build a resettlement site, the IDPs say the pledge remains unfulfilled.
We have been appealing to government. We have been serious meetings with the communities, begging government to allow us to go back to that our village. Because when we are in the village, because almost 100% of our communities are farmers, almost 100%. Because even the 5% I'm saying, maybe the class teachers, the district, the hospital attendants, also they are farmers too.
Some of us had small businesses before we fled, but we lost everything. We came here with nothing. How we expected to start over without help? We miss the peace and comfort of our homes. Since we arrived, some men have even abandoned their wives. We don't even know where they went.
Our children have no access to education. They have no access to education because 95% of people from our community are farmers. So far, since we are farmers and we are being displaced, we are here looking for what we eat. We have no access to what we will give to some of the schools to sponsor. We have no access to what to sponsor our children to school.
Beyond the camps, challenges persist in the abandoned communities as poor road networks, especially during the rainy season, continue to delay security responses during bandit attacks. Abibu Abakar Ushishi, Director of Communication at the Niger State Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management, said the resettlement efforts are ongoing, but it requires due process. He appealed to IDPs for patience. Abubakar Akote, Trust TV News, Mina.
In another story, a chief magistrate court sitting on Ibrahim Taiwo Road has remanded 10 suspects in a correctional facility for the alleged rape of a 16-year-old disabled girl in Likoro village, Kudan local government area of Kaduna State. The court heard that 2 additional suspects remain at large. Trust TV's Bello Musa reports.
According to the first information report, the suspect repeatedly raped the victim at various locations after deceiving and luring her. This resulted in her pregnancy and the birth of a baby boy 4 months prior. The prosecutor, Inspector Yakubu Ailemu, stated that the alleged actions contravene Section 257 of the Kaduna State Penal Code. Inspector Lemu informed the court that on October 27, 2024, Usman Yusuf reported the discovery of his younger sister Fatima Mekanti's 6-month pregnancy. Upon questioning, she revealed that the suspect had individually deceived and lured her to different locations within the village, where they repeatedly had carnal knowledge of her, leading to her pregnancy and subsequent delivery. The trial judge, Justice Abubakar Lamido, stated that the court awaits advice from the Ministry of Justice and ordered the suspect to be remanded pending the case's transfer to the High Court. He adjourned the matter to May 22, 2025 for mention. Relatives of the victim expressed satisfaction to newsmen after the court session, hopeful that justice will be served.
We are
still devastated with the ugly incident. Her father is blind, old, and sick. Her mother is also blind, while the girl has one eye. We are happy because after a long time, we hope to get justice. We have been pursuing this case for months because it has been dragging. We are hopeful it will be resolved soon.
My appeal to what for this one of our members is to ensure they have due justice with not only her, including all persons with disability in Kaduna State. Let it be justice for us.
Kaduna State Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development, Haji Arabi Salihu, assured that the state government will pursue the case to ensure justice.
We are here this morning to listen to the court case in respect of one teenager who is also a disabled person, and her parents both are also disabled, who was abused continuously by 12 men. And the alleged perpetrators have been taken to court this morning, and 10 of them have been apprehended, as you can see, while 2 are still at large. These incidents happened almost 8 months, over a year, but these people have not been apprehended. The former DPO arrested them and released them on bail, and capital offense are not supposed to be granted bail. So that is why we open up the case as a fresh case to arrest them.
The Commissioner, Ministry of Human Services and Social Development, Rabi Salihu, disclosed that the state government will provide social welfare for the child and the mother, emphasizing that the mother, being a child herself, will also receive care and social protection. She issued a strong warning to the public, stating that the state government will not tolerate any form of abuse, torture, or molestation of women, children, and especially individuals with disabilities.
The Nigerian Senate has passed the remaining 2 tax reform bills submitted by President Tinubu in October 2024, completing the approval of 4 key tax reform bills aimed at overhauling Nigeria's tax system. The 2 bills passed on Thursday are the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill 2025 and the Nigeria Tax Bill 2025. Earlier on Wednesday, the Senate had passed the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2025 and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2025. The report.
These newly passed bills collectively seek to repeal outdated tax laws and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation. The bills establish new tax authorities, including a Joint Revenue Board, a Tax Appeal Tribunal, and the Office of the Tax Ombudsman, and are expected to improve tax assessment, collection, and accountability across federal, states, and local governments. President of the Senate, Julius Abari, commended the lawmakers for their contributions and urged further observations for refinement.
Consolidate the legal framework relating to taxation and enact the Nigeria Tax Bill to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments, and for related matters 2025, third reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal certain acts on taxation and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation and enact the Nigeria Tax Bill to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments, and for related matters 2025, third reading taken and passed.
The Senate Committee on Finance, chaired by Senator Sani Musa, presented reports on the bills after extensive consultations and clause-by-clause considerations to address controversies, including contentious issues around the value-added tax, VAT. The Senate rejected a proposal to increase VAT to 10%, retaining it at 7.5%. A committee led by Senator Yahaya Abdullahi was set up to harmonize the bills with existing laws. Meanwhile, as Senate President Godswill Akpabio has taken a swipe at Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi over recent remarks suggesting that the labors of our heroes past is all in vain. Speaking at a valedictory session in honor of the late Edwin Clark, Akpabio raised concerns about the divisive nature of social media, calling it an unregulated space that can spread misinformation and deepen political tensions. The Senate President urged all political figures, including Obi, to focus on unifying their parties before setting their sights on national office.
Some of them in the social media were not even born when Edwin Clark was very active in service. And so they couldn't have known some of the things he did that we are remembering today. And yet, when somebody makes a statement that the labors of our heroes past are in vain, I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party.
The valedictory session was organized in recognition of Clark's service as a senator during Nigeria's Second Republic. Senators paid glowing tributes, describing him as a tireless advocate for justice, a champion for the marginalized, and a national figure whose legacy continues to inspire generations. A minute's silence was observed in his honor.
It was a busy legislative day at the National Assembly as the House of Representatives considered several critical motions from electoral reform and contractor debt to NYC camp expansion and energy equity. The plenary also saw a wave of defections that hit the main opposition party hard. The report.
The House of Representatives this Thursday passed for second reading a bill seeking to establish the National Electoral Offences Commission. The sponsor, Representative Adebayo Olusegun Balogun, said the bill aims to relieve INEC of the burden of prosecuting electoral crimes, allowing an independent agency to take over that function.
INEC as an agency has been overwhelmed by the responsibility of prosecuting all these offenders, and because of that, many offenders
In another development, the House resolved to investigate why contractors are not being paid for completed projects. This followed a motion of urgent public importance by Representative Nnamdi Ezechi. Lawmakers warned that failure to settle those debts is causing widespread project abandonment across the country.
The lack of releases, like you didn't mention, is affecting a lot of things. Some people have invested their money through the actualizing of the projects, but because of the lack of releases, they couldn't continue, they couldn't complete, and in a way, that is also putting the local contractors in releasing money to a contractor or to somebody executing project for you. You are equally losing the time of completion and the skyrocketing costs of projects. That is the rates at which a contractor puts to execute.
The House also called on the federal government to establish compressed natural gas (CNG) conversion centers equitably across all states. This came after Representative Aliyu Madaki pointed out that most northern states have been left out of the presidential CNG initiative.
Others are aware that for the takeoff of the presidential compressed gas initiative, the federal government proposed to establish CNG conversion centers in some states, including Abia, Bayelsa, Cross River, and Ebonyi, with one center each, while Akwa Ibom has 5 centers, Delta 9 centers, Edo with 11 centers, Ekiti with 7 centers, Enugu and Kogi with 3 centers, FCT Abuja 3 centers. So we are calling for the policy implementers to please vindicate this government. We know government has done their best, but let the policy makers consider Northeast. There is no single CNG center in the whole of Northeast sub-region. But look at the entire northeast of this part of this country was completely ignored. And look at the 80% of the northwest corridor of this country was completely exempted. That is the corridors, not even the cities. The corridors where commuters will fly. And then the main aim of this initiative is to give relief to the Nigerian masses.
To address overcrowding, the House passed a resolution urging the federal government to build new NYSC orientation camps and expand existing ones to accommodate at least 5,000 corps members in every state. This followed a motion by Representative Garba Mohammed.
Alarmed that some states lack orientation camps to accommodate and meet the increasing number of corps members deployed, while other states temporarily utilize secondary schools buildings to accommodate prospective corps members. Disturbed by the current dilapidated state of permanent orientation camps in the country, which is causing dissatisfaction due to inadequate facilities, overstretching the existing facilities, leaving corps members with no options other than to be redeployed.
And in a major political shift, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) lost 3 lawmakers to the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). Representatives Dubai Balarabe, Ilyasu Abubakar, and Yusuf Majigri, all from Katsina State, announced their defection in a letter read by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. The House says it will monitor the implementation of its resolutions, including ensuring equitable gas infrastructure and improved electoral justice.
To formally inform you and the honorable House of my decision to resign my membership of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and declare for the All Progressive Congress (APC). The primary reason for my defection is the high level of chronic crisis without cure and internal divisions currently plaguing the PDP.
The shift in political platforms continues to reshape the makeup of the 10th National Assembly, with major realignment ahead of 2027.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan has warned that it is dangerous for Nigeria to slide into a one-party state. He spoke in Abuja while paying tribute to the late elder statesman Edwin Clark at a memorial lecture and day of tribute. Clark, an Ijaw leader and politician, died in February at the age of 97. Jonathan warned that any attempt to bring about a one-party state through political machinations to soothe only personal aspirations would be detrimental to the country. Jonathan's warning came on the heels of the alarm raised by some Nigerians that the country could be drifting into a one-party state, given the gale of defections from some opposition parties to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC.
When you listen to the news, read the show, go through the show media, that's one thing that on an occasion like this, probably one need to. Yes, one-party states, countries have managed one-party states. Yes, one-party state may not be an evil after all, because Julius Abari of Tanzania used one-party states to stabilize his country in their early days of independence. He felt that his country has, just like Nigeria, too many tribes and tongues, two principal religions, Christianity and Islam. If he allowed multi-parties, some parties would toe the lines of religion, some would toe the lines of tribes, and unity would be difficult. But it was properly planned, it was not by accident. If we must, as a nation, go one party, then it must be designed, it must be planned by experts, and we know what we are going in for. But if we come through the back door by political manipulation, then we're heading to crisis. So I will advise that probably a country like Nigeria, it's better we allow the system to stay as it is.
Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State on Thursday announced that the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, has officially adopted President Bola Tinubu as its candidate for the 2027 presidential election. Governor Soludo further emphasized that APGA and the All Progressives Congress, APC, would work together as both parties share a common belief in progressivism. The announcement was made at Alex Ekwemi Square in Akwa during the president's working visit to the state.
In 2011, before I joined in 2013, Mr. President, and this is very important, and we need to repeat this point. In 2011, before I joined APGA in 2013, APGA took an official position to support and work with the political party and government at the center. Indeed, in that year, APGA adopted the sitting president then as its presidential candidate. And I want to report that that policy by APGA has not changed. Coincidentally, Mr. President, at this moment in history, the party, a government at the center, is one that also professes progressivism. Then, as the foremost progressive party in Nigeria, APGA is ideologically and strategically aligned with the center. And so far, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the progressives are working well together.
About 30 months ago, I stood at this venue as candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu, running for president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In less than 2 years since assumption of office as your president, I thank you for your encouragement and your support. I am delighted to be back on a state visit and to commission some legacy projects by your government. I come as a friend to the great people of Anambra and the Southeast. Southeast, I salute your enterprise, your innovation, and your unwavering commitment to progress. Anambra has long stood as a beacon of commerce, intellect, and cultural strength, a pride not only to the Southeast, but to Nigeria as a whole.
The Akwa Division of the Court of Appeal in Ondo State has affirmed the victory of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa and his deputy Olaide Adelami in the November 16, 2024 governorship poll, dismissing the appeal that challenged the validity of the primary election that produced both as candidates of the All Progressives Congress APC. The court upheld the earlier judgment of the Federal High Court, which ruled against Olugbenga Edema, candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) in the election, in his bid to invalidate the primary election that produced Messrs. Aiyedatiwa and Adelami as candidates of the APC. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Oyebisi Omoleye on Thursday, the appellate court upheld the lower court's dismissal of Edema's suit, citing procedural flaws and abuse of the judicial process. The Justice Toyin Bolaji Adegoke of the Federal High Court had ruled that the suit became incompetent after the NNPP withdrew from the case, leaving Edema without a proper legal standing. Edema had approached the Federal High Court seeking to nullify Aiyedatiwa's candidacy over alleged irregularities in the APC primaries. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has re-listed the name of Julius Abari on its website as the national chairman of Labour Party. It also re-enlisted Umar Farouk Ibrahim as national secretary of the party. According to the commission, the re-enlistment was based on an order of court. The commission equally has Senator Samuel Enyanwu as National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. It did not, however, indicate whether the decision was based on a court order. The Supreme Court had last month set aside earlier decisions of the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, which recognized Abari as Labour Party's national chairman. Since then, Abari had continued to lay claim to the seat, relying on the Apex Court's decision that the issue of his chairmanship remained an internal affair of the Labour Party and was therefore not justiciable. However, Abia State Governor Alex Soti and the 2023 presidential candidate of the party, Peter Obi, had insisted on the validity of a caretaker committee chaired by Senator Nina D. Usman, saying the ruling effectively sacked Abari. An INEC source said Abari's name was re-enlisted after studying the certified true copy of the judgment. According to him, the Supreme Court judgment did not deal with the rest or substance of the matter, as it only ruled on the lack of jurisdiction by the lower courts, a development which implied that the status quo antebellum remained. The third prosecution witness in the alleged money laundering case instituted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahya Bello, admitted before the Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday that there was no wire transfer of fees from the Kogi State governorship or any of the local governments in the state to the account of the American International School, Abuja, during cross-examination by the defendant's counsel, Joseph Daudu, and Nicholas Ojehomen, an internal auditor at the American International School, Abuja, also admitted that there was no transfer bearing the name Yahya Bello in the documents. Justice Emeka Nwite had earlier rejected the EFCC's objection to the admissibility of a judgment of the Federal Capital Territory High Court between Mr. Ali Bello and incorporated trustees of American International School the judge had at the last hearing. adjourned for ruling on the admissibility of the judgment, which had decided the issue of payment of fees or refund in the ongoing case in favor of the defendant. While delivering his ruling, he said the objection of the prosecution was preemptive, adding that the court had since moved away from the platform of technicalities to the platform of substantial justice. He therefore urged the court to reject the document. Justice Nwite adjourned the case to May 9, 2025 for continuation of trial. Meanwhile, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kano, has denied involvement in the October 2020 EndSARS protests and destruction of properties in Lagos State. Kano stated this in a video played in the course of his ongoing trial at the Abuja Federal High Court on Thursday. At the resumption of the trial on Thursday, the prosecution led by Adegboyega Owomole called its second witness, an agent of the Department of State Services (DSS), to continue with his testimony against Kano. During the proceedings, the prosecution also played a CD where the DSS agent interviewed Kano at the agency's headquarters in Abuja on July 17, 2021. In the video, the operatives asked Kano if he was aware that his broadcast of October 20th, 2020 led to violence, killings, and destruction of public infrastructure in Lagos State. Responding, the IPOB leader said Lagos is not Biafra territory, so whatever happened there can't be attributed to him. Meanwhile, the trial judge, Justice James Umotosho, adjourned the matter till May 14th, 21st, and 22nd for continuation of hearing. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has arrested a former member representing Kazuare, Roni, Gwiwa, and Enkwashi Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, Muhammad Kazuare, in Kano. Kazuare, a member of the All Progressives Congress who served between 2015 to 2023, has been vocal on various issues, including insecurity and corruption allegations against the former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele. Recall also that on 17 December 2022, the Central Bank of Nigeria denied allegations made by Kazuare that 89.09 trillion naira in stamp duty collections had been diverted and that the then CBN Governor Emefiele kept $171 billion in the bank's private investors' account as proceeds of stamp. According to reports, Kazuare was invited to the EFCC office in Kano, where he presented himself only to be arrested and subsequently flown to Abuja on Wednesday. The reasons behind the invitation and arrest are yet to be disclosed, with speculations rampant about the circumstances surrounding his detention. As at the time of this report, the EFCC has not provided any official statement on the matter, leaving many to wonder what led to the arrest of the former lawmaker. This is News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, we take a look at how Kano-based teenage Inventor is creating solution-based devices. More news when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This is News Hour on Trust TV. Let's take a look at our top stories again. Niger IDPs turn to sandpacking for survival amid disease outbreaks. And Kaduna court remands 10 in prison for assaulting 16-year-old girl. Moving on to more stories, Justice James Umotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed a suit filed by MultiChoice Nigeria owners of DSTV and GoTV challenging the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission's FCCPC intervention in its recent subscription price hike. Delivering judgment, Justice Umotosho ruled that the suit constituted an abuse of court process as similar proceedings were already pending in Lagos State. He stressed that the plaintiff should have pursued its arguments in that court, rendering the current filing inappropriate. Justice Omotosho, however, noted that while the FCCPC has investigative powers under its Establishing Act, it lacks the authority to fix or suspend prices unless specifically delegated by the President through a gazetted instrument. No such delegation was presented to the court. He added that Nigeria operates a free market system and service providers like MultiChoice retain the right to set their prices, with consumers free to accept or reject them. The judge further ruled that FCCPC's actions, including directing MultiChoice to suspend its price increase, breached the company's right to fair hearing and appeared selectively targeted. In the meantime, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has welcomed the Federal High Court's ruling affirming its authority to investigate alleged exploitative practices by MultiChoice Nigeria Limited. In a statement on Thursday in Abuja signed by the Director of Corporate Affairs on IDPs, the Commission quoted its Executive Vice Chairman, Tunji Bello, who described the ruling as a victory for the rule of law. Bello said the judgment marked a significant step toward preventing procedural tactics aimed at obstructing lawful regulatory oversight. He added that Nigerian consumers could be assured of the Commission's commitment to investigating and addressing exploitative pricing and other anti-consumer practices in line with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018. The Commission noted that MultiChoice had ignored its invitation in February and went ahead with another subscription rate hike just 8 months after a similar increase. A coalition of civil society groups is sounding the alarm over the rising cases of arbitrary deportations and human rights violations against African immigrants abroad. The group Human Rights Monitors is urging African governments to take immediate action to protect their citizens who are outside the shores of their countries. The report.
The Grassroots Center for Rights and Civic Orientation and other human rights defenders who decried the rising cases of deportation and rights abuses are demanding for justice for African migrants facing forced removals from Europe and the Middle East. They made their demands known during a World Press Conference with the theme Justice for Africans and People of African Descendants Through Repatriations held in Abuja. According to American Civil Liberty Union, the United States federal immigration enforcement policy, including enforcement measures by Customs and Border Protection, have led to an increase in racial profiling, border killings, and denials of due process rights.
We see everybody being lumped together and described as criminals, and these are issues, these violations are affecting our people. There are a lot of Nigerians in the US who are living in fear, who do not know what will happen to them next.
The Human Rights Monitor commended the African Union for choosing this year's theme and pledged to educate and enlighten Nigerians and Africans on the significance of such efforts.
We have seen some cases in which some colonizing powers that were involved in those violations have come out to apologize. But apology is not enough. Just to apologize and not take any further steps is not enough. So reparation is one of those steps, and reparation comes in different dimensions. There's a dimension of reparation that is about money. There's a dimension of reparation that is about documentation, of sponsoring research to show that, okay, this is what happened. Because reparation is also about acknowledging the truth of what transpired in the past.
The convener, Arms Free Ajanaku, is clear that mass deportation violates several human rights and freedoms, which include protection against return to a country where people are at risk of torture and other harms.
Because if you don't develop that culture for people in leadership position to be accountable, then accountability discussions will be strange to people. So if you cannot ask the leader of your community association, how did you spend the monies of our association? Then you cannot also go to the local government to ask the same question. You cannot go to the State Assembly to ask the same question. So it has to begin from our communities.
In 2020, Nigerians in the United States alone reportedly sent home remittance worth $6 million. Now, many of these fellow citizens are facing challenges, hence the need to address the situation. Amina Ibrahim, Trust TV.
Stakeholders in the health sector have raised concerns over the deceptive marketing tactics used to promote unhealthy foods and beverages across the country. A new report released after extensive research in 7 Nigerian states has revealed a concerning trend in dietary patterns among citizens. Health experts warn that this growing trend poses a serious threat to public health. Here's the report. Advertisement on the media is dominated by the benefits of sugar-sweetened beverages and how the products enhance intelligence, proper growth, vigor, and positive development in children and young persons. These are strategies employed by the sugar-sweetened beverages SSB industry in Nigeria, which many experts consider exploitative. Beyond the perfect picture, health educators are sounding the alarm on the increasing consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in Nigeria.
As we are tackling the major products, we have new products that are also unhealthy, and because most of our community members don't read the labelings, that's why we are supporting CAPA to put it out there that majorly all these drinks are really bad for our health, and they are the major cause of NCDs. And NCDs are communicable diseases, and it is what is killing most people, like our blood pressure, diabetes, and most people don't know. If you are still telling them, oh, don't do this, they'll be like, oh, I'm tired, that's why I'm taking Coke, which is not supposed to be.
Extensive research has revealed a dangerous shift in Nigeria's dietary patterns. These experts warn that the rising consumption of highly processed sugar-laden products is fueling a national health crisis.
Junk on our plates documents how both multinational and local companies continue to leverage false narratives, misleading labels, lack of appropriate regulation, and aggressive marketing to push on healthy foods and drinks, extremely high in sugar, salt, and saturated fats into our homes, schools, and communities. They are not neutral products. These are products that create illnesses and feed into cycle of poverty and diseases.
Mostly sugar-sweetened beverages, ultra-processed food in general, food that are high in sodium, food that are high in salt. We consider them as generally unhealthy to consume excessively. Also, those that are high in trans fats, those that are high in oil that are not generally good for consumption by consumers, we find them to be unhealthy, and that termed in that term of junk because they are not heavily processed as natural food. They are high in additive, condiments, and also high in sugar or sweetness. So we term them generally as junk products.
Health advocates are calling for stronger action and better education from the various regulatory agencies and consumer protection bodies. To start off, the battle against deceptive marketing and unhealthy diets must begin with preventive mechanisms such as a sugar tax. It should continue with consistent education of Nigerians on the dangers of consumption of too much sugar. At his modest workshop in Kano State, a young mind is quietly shaping the future. 19-year-old Khalifa Aminu is a self-taught inventor who turned childhood curiosity into real-world innovation with limited resources. He is now creating devices that solve everyday problems and inspiring others along the way. Trust TV's Abdulaziz Ibrahim met with Khalifa and files in this report.
In his small corner office, brilliance is quietly at work as 19-year-old Khalifa Aminu, a self-taught inventor, is turning imagination into innovation. I've always been curious. I started inventing things when I was 7, and I haven't stopped since then. My aim is to create devices that solve real problems and make life easier. These smart glasses, for example, I created them to give visually impaired people more independence by helping them detect obstacles and alerting them with a beeping sound. From humble beginnings and with education only up to secondary school level, Khalifa began building small gadgets using scrap and household materials. But as his ideas became more advanced, sourcing components became a major challenge. The problem I faced, especially before I became known on social media, was getting components like resistors, capacitors, and microcontrollers. They were expensive, so I had to order some and buy others from the Sabongeri market. Things became much easier when this organization where I am now stepped in, and they provided all the components I currently use. Even when my education was interrupted, they supported me to continue. We discovered him on social media and were impressed by his talent, but we noticed he had no one to support him. We believe people like him are exactly what our society needs. Supporting him is not just about him, it will benefit many others in the future. Khalifa's most recent project, which caught widespread attention on social media, is a metal detector, which he says is just a step toward his larger dream. This device could detect minerals, metals, and even bombs underground. It's an idea I've had for a long time, but I was unable to bring it to life until after I received support. The always jovial young inventor who says he spends most of his day in his office has some advice for other young people. In the past, I used to have a lot of time to play, but now I spend most of my time researching and doing practical work in my office. So with the way the world is advancing in technology, I encourage other young people to use whatever talent they have to contribute to societal development. Certainly, young Khalifa Aminu is not just building gadgets, he's building a future with one invention at a time. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News.
The Imo State Police Command has reacted to a viral video showing police officers attached to its command assaulting a man along the Owerri-Aba road. The viral video showed the officers slapping and kicking the man who appeared to be a passenger in a commercial vehicle. In a statement, the spokesperson of the command, DSP Henry Okoye, said the officers involved have been identified as Inspector Ofem Obenga, Inspector Obina Okereke, and Sergeant Anayo Okizi, all from the Safer Highway Unit. Okoye mentioned that following a review of the video, the command conducted an orderly room trial in line with Nigeria Police Force disciplinary procedures. According to the statement, Sergeant Anayo Okizi was found guilty of using his issued smoke gunner in the assault and has been demoted to the rank of corporal. He said inspectors Obonga and Okereke were severely reprimanded for failing to exercise proper supervisory control, which allowed the unprofessional conduct to occur. And on business, Nigeria has officially removed itself from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, debtor list following the full settlement of its outstanding credit obligations. Analysts say this significant step, confirmed by the IMF's latest report, marks a turning point in the country's fiscal journey, reflecting the success of a strategic debt reduction plan under President Bola Tinubu's administration. As of May 2025, Nigeria no longer appears among the 91 developing nations with pending credit to the IMF, signaling the culmination of a two-year repayment initiative. This achievement, reported in the IMF's total IMF credit outstanding document, has been hailed as a defining moment for Nigeria's financial management, with the country now emerging debt-free from its previous obligations. The journey towards clearing this debt began in earnest in 2023, when the nation's IMF debt stood at $1.61 billion. Through disciplined fiscal reforms, the debt steadily declined, reaching $472 million by January 2025, before being fully repaid by May of the same year. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has allotted 598.33 billion naira Nigerian Treasury bills across 3 maturities. The 365-day bill accounted for 80% of total sales and subscriptions, amounting to a sale of 482.62 billion naira of the tenor. The 81-day bill saw the lowest demand and sales of all tenors, with only 48.4 billion naira subscriptions and even lower sales of 38.4 billion naira. Total sales of the Treasury bills year to date now amount to 7.248 trillion naira. The Apex Bank saw an oversubscription at the Nigerian Treasury bill auction on Wednesday as liquidity floods the market. A total of 550 billion naira was offered across the 3 maturities of 50 billion naira in 91-day bills, 100 billion naira in 182-day bills, and 400 billion naira in 364-day bills. Demand for the government securities was double the offer, though total subscriptions fell to 1.08 trillion naira from 1.53 trillion naira at the prior auction. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has issued a formal letter of sanction to Kenya Airways following multiple violations of consumer protection regulations involving 3 passengers, including Gloria Omishore. The Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection of the NCAA, Michael Achimugu, who made this announcement on his official X account on Wednesday night, said the sanctions stem from the airline's failure to uphold several key obligations, including a letter of sanction Kenya Airways over the cases of Gloria Omishore and 2 other passengers. Recall that in February 2025, the NCAA initiated enforcement actions against Kenya Airways following a widely publicized incident involving a Nigerian passenger, Gloria Omishore. The controversy began when Omishore was flown from Lagos to Nairobi without the necessary France transit visa for her onward journey to Manchester. This oversight led to her being stranded in Nairobi for a 17-hour layover, followed by an additional 10-hour wait. The NCAA noted that the airline issued a misleading statement about the incident, which the regulatory body rejected. Achimugu said that the determination was for the airline to update its initial statement to reflect the facts of the case, and noted that there has been no compliance. Away from Nigeria, Robert Franz Provost became the first pope from the United States on Thursday, picking the papal name Leo XIV after cardinals from around the world elected him leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. Tens of thousands of people packed in St. Peter's Square cheered as Prevost appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, waving with both hands, smiling and bowing. "Peace be with you," he told the crowds. White smoke from the Sistine Chapel had billowed in the sky on the cardinal's second day of voting to announce his election in a secret conclave, while the bells of St. Peter's Basilica and churches across Rome rang out. Crowds of people rushed towards the square to watch the balcony of the Basilica, which has been fitted out with red curtains for the first address to the world by the 267th Pope. The new pontiff, who succeeds Argentine former Pope Francis, was introduced in Latin with his chosen papal name. While reacting, President Donald Trump on Thursday hailed the election of Pope Leo XIV, the first pontiff from the United States, as a great honor for the country. Writing on Truth Social shortly after the announcement of the new pope, the United States President said congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis, Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement and what a great honor for our country. Trump said he looked forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV, adding that such meeting will be a very meaningful moment. It's now time for Sports News Update with Joseph Peter.
The Director General of the National Sports Commission, NSC, Bukola Olakpade, has charged the country's invited junior athletes, EJA contingents, to see their participation at the forthcoming 22nd National Sports Festival in Ogun State as bold step towards their sporting greatness. The DG gave the charge when he visited the athletes in their training camp in Abuja on Wednesday, where he held an exciting interactive discussion with them to boost their morale ahead of the games. Nigerian sport is currently receiving a breath of fresh air with the EJA concept, where the very best of the country's young athletes across multiple sports have been selected to feature as the 38 states at the sports festival. The junior athletes will compete in about 9 sports at the Gateway Games, which include athletics, badminton, football, para-athletics, swimming, table tennis, wrestling, and weightlifting. In football, Nigeria Premier Football League (NPFL) match commissioners have been directed to ensure that all clubs and their coaches comply fully with post-match protocols, which include interviews with journalists. Chairman of the NPFL, Benga Elegbeye, passed on the directive through the matchday situation room, where the league operations interact with match commissioners real-time to ensure smooth matchday management. He said it has become necessary to ensure full compliance with the provisions of the NPFL rules and frameworks following increasing reports by media partners that they are being denied of content. Some coaches are known to storm out of the field in anger when their team loses. The monetary sanction is aimed to be a deterrent to curb such unsporting conduct. That's Sport News. I am Joseph Peter, Trust TV.
And with that, we've come to the end of News Hour on Trust TV. Make sure you follow all our media platforms and join our YouTube live stream for more news. I am Hawa Adamikiawa. Have a wonderful evening.